What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video of me and my old man in a movie. I'm Gannon, this is my dad Ryan, and today we're going to be reviewing Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Alright, so if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and comment down below what you guys thought of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And before we get started, I want to read a brief synopsis of the film. Ethan Hunt and the IMF team race against time to find the entity, a rogue artificial intelligence that can destroy mankind.
There we go.
Alright.
Let's do this.
Let's do this. So, we're going to do our Blockbuster Trio.
Yep.
Well, first we're going to do our initial thoughts.
Yeah, initial thoughts.
Then we're going to do our Blockbuster Trio, which is 3 things that we liked about the film. The cutting room floor, which is
things we would
change about the film. We're going to give it a rating, and then we're going to tell you whether you should see it in theaters, wait to stream, or skip it altogether.
Here we go.
All right, let's give our initial thoughts on the film. You can kick us off.
All right, what do I got? 2 movies for the price of 1. We talked about there's kind of 2 big action sequences, and I get to the end of the first, and it's like, this could be the end of the movie, and then they launch into a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So like we were talking on the way home, this is like double your bang, right? Talked about that. It felt final to me. Like I've heard Tom Cruise in an interview kind of leaning toward this would be the last one. They asked, what's the girl that, I don't have her name here, Rebecca, Haley. She indicated, she's like, I don't know, it just really depends on what the audience wants, which I don't know how you beat a pulse of that. Yeah. But to me, it feels like they set this up to be the end. And,
but I think that they did.
Well, they did. They
left
leave
the door
something open at the end. That's true.
Just in case they wanted to go back, they left it open.
Yeah, but
it did feel pretty final.
To me, I think it would be good to, like, you asked me, would you end here? And I said, yes, I'd end here. Like, people take things too far. You got to know, end on top is what I always think. You want to end on top, like a career, Tom Brady, and all these things. Like go out with the Super Bowl. So like, it's kind of this. Like this was so well done. I think they just need to end it there. So
yeah. And
I would say this lived up to all the hype and more for me. So
really?
Yeah.
All right. I think this film is definitely. I put it pretty high up on the list for all the Mission Impossible movies. I think that there are some flaws in the film, but overall I think that the action sequences totally deliver on everything.
Yeah.
It easily has the best action sequences, I think, in the entire franchise.
Yeah.
It's incredible, and so, yeah.
I think part of it for me might have just been the whole experience. We went to the IMAX theater. We were with Mom and Callie. Like we were kind of all chatting beforehand and laughing. Like it just kind of, it all felt right, So that may have played into it too for me. Yeah. Because a lot of the others we just watched at home, know. So, all right, there it is.
All right, those are our initial thoughts. Let's get into our
Blockbuster Trio. All right, what do you got?
All right, you want to kick us off?
Sure, I'll kick it off again. I think the pace, and they kept it moving throughout. I know you got a little bit of feedback, kickback on some of like the initial part that you're going to get into, but like when the action hit, man, it moved. And Mission Impossibles do this, but I just you almost couldn't catch your breath on it. It just kept going and kept going and moving. And so they do a good job of like moving from one scene to the next where it just kind of pushes forward, and there's not like this clear break. Yeah.
All right. So the first thing I had was arguably, I think, one of the coolest action scenes I've ever seen in a movie, and that's the submarine scene.
Yes.
This was insane, and then you kind of see a bit of it in the trailer, but it doesn't do it justice at all. It's just like you're just like on the edge of your seat the whole time, and it's so claustrophobic and stuff. And so yeah, no spoilers, but it was incredible. An incredible IMAX experience for sure.
That's what I had as number 2, that underwater scene. I was there. It's like, and again, IMAX, but you're like, you're trying to breathe with them. this like the subs kind of doing some stuff. You know, he's it was just I don't like I said I don't want to give it away, but like there was just it was very involved. There was a lot to it. There were a lot of different twists and turns just within that scene, and even as he's coming up out of the water, like it's just you're just feeling all of it.
Yeah,
it had all of it.
Oh yeah,
it was so good.
It was really really cool.
Oh, yeah.
I would go see it again just for that scene.
Yeah,
just for that scene. It's what makes the whole movie worth it.
Yeah, right.
But the other scene that I have here that's literally just like 30 minutes after this scene, which is another scene I think is one of the coolest action scenes I've seen in a movie, is the biplane scene. And that's a huge part in the trailer when he's dangling off of the plane. But just that whole scene and the choreography with the dives and the flips and stuff, like it was just so cool.
And to think that that's not CGI, to think that like like they're doing this.
Yeah.
You're like watching the shots. You're like, are they in the air? Where are they at? It's like, is this on a sound stage? Like, what's happening?
But he does all his own stunts.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I was listening to an interview with the other guy, the Gabriel character, and like he had some stuff. Like he got pushed to his own limits, you know, because he was doing some of the stuff. And they were talking about Tom Cruise when the wind catches his face. Did you notice that part? And his face is like flip, you know, and it was the Benji guy. He was doing an interview and he's like, it was the most awful look you'd ever have for an actor. But like, you knew he did that himself. That was definitely not a stuntman, you know. So it's just it just adds an element of in an age of CGI, it adds this element of like authenticity to the film.
Yeah, and knowing like that submarine scene, going back to that, how real and great it actually looked, because I've seen a behind the scenes thing where there's just like they have this giant tunnel of the submarine and they've got it moving and rotating and stuff, and it's all real. Like it's all real, and so it's like it's really cool to see like it's all like it just feels so much more real.
Yeah. So where are we at? Is that I lost track?
Yeah, I lost track too.
Oh, that was my number 2 was underwater.
Yeah.
Okay, you got 3.
Underwater.
Yeah, you got. Did I start? Did you start? I started.
You started.
So I'm 3.
You got 3.
Okay, right. 3 is the callbacks. The way that they in the script that they tied this back into some of the other films. There were a couple times in the film I audibly heard people around me go, "Oh." You know, they would flash back and you're like, oh, you know, and there was just these light bulb moments where you're like, oh, they're tying that in. Oh, they're bringing that in. That character, you know. I just thought it was really thoroughly thought out as far as how to. And that's, again, why I think this particular film puts a nice bow on the whole series and would make sense that they would end here, is because how else are you going to create anything next that's going to button things up as well as this did?
Yeah. So the third thing I had was the entity scene. Now this happens kind of earlier on in the film. Tom Cruise kind of has an interaction with the entity, and this is just visual insanity. Like the visuals on this, the way that it's edited and stuff is just it's just so cool to see in theaters. There's so many good scenes in this movie that just totally work and they're insane. And that was one of them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There it is.
Now let's move on to the cutting room floor. Alright, so I'll kick us off this time. The first thing I had was the exposition early on in the film. They do a lot of kind of bringing you up to speed on it, and I felt like a lot of it was unnecessary. They didn't need to do that much exposition, and there is a lot of it. And it does get a little bit like, within that first hour of the film. But again, there are some cool parts of that first hour, but a lot of it's exposition, and a lot of it's just kind of that exposition dump kind of thing.
Yeah, and I wonder if, you know, they were trying to, because they had Dead Reckoning, and they got Final Reckoning, and because they changed the title, I don't know that, you know, you would think, but not everybody knew that this was like a continuation, so maybe they didn't see the first, so they were trying to, obviously, because it's a pretty involved plot line, so you kind of have to bring, for anybody who hasn't seen Dead Reckoning, you got to bring them along, and that's a lot to bring them along on. So, yeah, there was a lot of that. All right, first thing for me, ruined a perfectly good VCR. That was it. At the very beginning of the film, he gets his mission assignment on a VCR disc, and at 5 seconds, you see the VCR explode, kind of smoke up, and I'm like, those are really hard to come by these days, a good VCR, and they ruined it. So the fact that they just destroyed a VCR, I think they need like a no VCR was harmed in the making of this film. It's nostalgic for me. I don't like to see VCRs destroyed. All right, there it is.
All right, the second thing I had were the flashbacks. There were a lot of flashbacks in this film to the previous films, but there were a couple of times that they flashed back to the Final Reckoning film. Like they flash back to like 30
their
minutes.
Own movie.
Yeah, I'm like, that was extremely unnecessary, and a couple of others were very unnecessary, and there's a lot of it, and so I think you could have cut some of those out, and it would have been just fine.
Yeah. All right. I don't have much else, to be perfectly honest.
Really?
Yeah. I will say, and this is, I don't even know if you want to put it on the screen, but like, more in the first, like, I'm not a huge fan of the entity. I don't know if it's the voice they give it or kind of the ultimatum behind it. I don't know how else you would. I was trying to think. I don't know how else you would do the point of this movie, but it almost felt like what's the thing in the Avengers, the Age of Ultron?
Ultron, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of felt like it wanted to be Ultron, but it wasn't quite as cool as Ultron to me. So. You could put it down there.
All right,
Entity. It's not really my favorite. But you can't leave that on the cutting room floor. The whole plot revolves around this thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just maybe thinking through it a little differently. I almost didn't like the opening thing where where with the entity. But
you didn't like that? I like that part.
So I don't know.
All right.
I got to think through it more.
The last thing I had for the cutting room floor is the runtime. This thing is way too long. It's like 2 hours and 50 minutes, almost a 3-hour movie. This could have been done in 2.5 hours, maybe even less than that. But yeah.
It did get long.
It was very long.
I had to go to the bathroom under 2 hours in. I held it for a whole hour. I was dancing in my seat for a whole hour because I was like, I am not leaving this theater.
And I think cutting down on the exposition and cutting some of the flashbacks out would have helped the runtime a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially within that first act, that first hour. So yeah.
Next time I'm taking a bladder bag into the theater. I'm just gonna be on a cath.
Yeah.
They should sell those at the concession. Cath bags.
Man.
Okay, we're digressing. All right, let's move on.
So let's go to the rating.
Rating.
I gave this 8.5 biplanes. So
I'm giving it 9.7 biplanes.
Wow, 9.7.
I loved this. Again, it might, just caveat, it might have to do with the whole experience. IMAX family, everything involved, full house, all that. But I was just completely absorbed and opened myself completely up to this film, and it delivered.
The only reason I gave it an 8.5 and not like a 9 was because of the exposition early on. I just felt like there were parts of it that were a bit of a drag in the first hour.
Yeah, but part of that, it just kind of, I don't know. It brought it all around for me. I think it worked. It worked.
I heard some people say that there was too much nostalgia in this film. Like they were trying to.
See, that's what I was just about to say. I think it was good.
I think that's. I mean, what do you expect? It's the last movie of a 30-year-old franchise. Of course, they're going to try to capitalize on it, and I mean, it worked.
Maybe a little melodramatic, but I think it worked. Yeah.
I mean.
All right. So there it is. Yeah. Okay. So in theaters.
Yeah. In theaters, definitely. Definitely.
Do not let this one get past you.
Yeah,
and
don't
not
wait to
see
streaming.
this in theater.
Yeah.
Forget Lilo and Stitch. Pass on that one.
Well, we haven't even seen. You can't
I don't
say
care.
that.
I don't want to see Lilo and
You
Stitch.
can't say that.
This is the movie that should be heading the box office, in my opinion.
I highly doubt we're gonna like Lilo and Stitch more than this.
No, I can tell you, I'm not. But anyway, all right. So there it is. We've got. What do we got? We're gonna be doing all the films. Mission Impossible.
Ranking all the Mission Impossible films, so go check that out.
Okay, we've got T-shirts on the site now. We've opened a store. Grab one of those. Look at those. If you guys
like this video, make sure you give it a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Comment down below if you guys like Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, and we will see you guys next time.